Have you ever hit rock bottom only to realize it was the firm foundation that you needed to rebuild your life? I have. Welcome to today's episode. He left, we divorced, and now I gotta bounce back. I'm your host, Coach Kofia, and I want to share my story with you guys in the hopes that it will encourage you to keep going. Okay, so we met 2010, get married, a couple years later, have a daughter, our first child together. Fast forward, two kids now together, and then of course my bonus daughter. Well, my third daughter, I'm pregnant with her. We have her in 2018. And I'm not going to share with you guys like the beginning details. You'll have to catch that in a different episode. But we are in a place where we just had a daughter. We're in a new place, a new apartment. Went from like living in an abandoned home to like a nice apartment, which was amazing for me. And he goes to have a job interview in a different state. And we have never talked about this as far as like what exactly happened. When he left to move to Texas, it wasn't initially he was moving. It was more so he was going down there for a job interview. We were in a weird space, rocky space, not really talking every day when he was in the same state. And so it was just a very like ambiguous time. Okay. And I know that sounds crazy for somebody that you're married to, but that's how it was. And so at this time where he is going for the job interview, our youngest daughter was maybe 3 months. She was born in March. I think he left around June or July, maybe. I do not remember many conversations around what was happening. And so I had to make things what they were here. And I went from having a person that would at least be there to help me with, day-to-day responsibilities, with having 2 kids and now a newborn, so 3 kids in the home, to doing it all by myself. And it was difficult. Like, it was extremely difficult. Thankfully, I was tapped into an amazing church, and there were people there that, I befriended, and we developed close relationships. And I really started to work on my mind and what I believed. And even prior to that, I was already kind of working on like my mindset and just really kind of understanding, okay, God's word says to renew our mind. And that means for me, there was like a complete renovation that needed to take place. Well, in a complete renovation, you taking out the old and you replacing it with the new. And so I remember going through a program. It was called the 21 day something with Dr. Carolyn Leaf, and a brain detox. And I remember clarity that I began to get from that. And I just remember having these amazing revelations that were also very heavy, because I began to see the foundation that I had built my life on up until that point was completely, like, it was built on shame. It was built on people pleasing. It was built on just not enough. Like, I was not enough in no parts of my life, and everything that I thought was there that was supposed to be a foundation for me was actually, crumbles, right? It was in shambles. And so I didn't have a lot of conversations with him around anything. And I will say, full disclaimer, like, I fully participated in the relationship as far as like its demise. And I take full ownership of the things that happened, because if I was the person that I am now in the relationship with him at the time, I don't know if situation would be different. I don't know if the results would be different, but I would think that they would be, because of just who I am now and what I believe about myself. And I think that is a huge factor going into any relationship. with all that said, people are responsible for their actions, right? And so going from having support to doing things by myself as a single mom, trying to figure out how to put food on the table, take care of the kids, get them to where they need to go, and go through my own healing was it was a lot. It was so much. It was so much, but it was so worth every ounce of everything that I could have given for at that point. And so I guess my first, if there's a lesson, there's always a lesson. There's a lesson that I want to share. It would be that you're going to make it. You're going to make it through. Now, the quality of your life going through it is really up to you. I can't even say that, I wouldn't say that it's up to God, because you have to make a decision on what you want to do, right? He lays paths before us, and we get to pick which route we're going to take. And sometimes, we don't take the route that is the best one for us. And so he still works it out for our good. He still gives us a detour, but it's ultimately up to you on whether or not you're going to come out of this circumstance, going through a divorce, being a single parent, doing all the things, and trying to go through your healing journey. And if you're going to come out, whether, bitter or better, it's up to you. You get to pick, right? That is one thing I learned from this entire experience, is that you get to pick. There's going to be pain in our lives, but it's up to us what our perspective is going to be. And ultimately, are we going to make this a lesson, or are we going to take a loss for this? And a loss to me is somebody who just determines that this is what their life is and that's all there is to it. But the person who learns a lesson gathers a perspective that they can use going forward. And so that would be the first thing I would say, is to make a decision and then determine which route you're going to take, right? And cut off any other option. I remember hearing, and I think this is probably the catalyst, or one of the major catalysts, that really affected how I position myself going through divorce, right? So let me back up a little bit. So he moves, I'm here taking care of the girls, doing all the things. And I just remember being in this fog, right? Being in a place where I'm unclear what to do. I'm a believer. I don't believe in divorce. However, I feel like this is it. Somebody just walk out, somebody leaves you and you're married to this person, but they don't feel like they owe you an explanation. There's no there's no communication. You are left to figure it out. It's well, wait a minute. There's got to be more to this. I shouldn't have to stay in this place of unclear, I was gonna say unclarity, but that's not a word. But I shouldn't have to stay in this place where I'm ambiguous to know what my next steps are gonna be, because someone else has just decided not to make a decision, right? And I made a decision that, well, first, before I made a decision, I sought the face of God, and I sought my leaders, and I remember getting wise counsel. And I just remember everything that would come across my tape, my plate, on YouTube or anything, would be signs for me, as confirmation to do what I felt like I needed to do. But also I was afraid to do, because a part of me didn't want to be the bad guy. Because I felt labeled as the person who actually has to go through the process of going through divorce as being the bad guy. That would be my lesson number 2. And this is what I've coached plenty of women to help them, bounce back after divorce, or, enjoy their life now. And lesson number 2 or 3, I don't know where we are, is to be okay being the villain in someone else's story. Be okay with that, because everybody's gonna have a version of the story that's not gonna paint you out in a good light. Shoot, the version that I have of myself in my marriage is not painted in a good light, right? But at the same time, I had to be okay with not being able to clear anything up, not being able to change someone's perspective of me. And a part of me was a people pleaser, right? And a part of me wanted that validation and affirmation that people liked me and that people, thought I was a good person. And it's like, I had to completely let go of other people's opinion of me because I needed to do what was best for me, not just for me, but for the 3 lives that I'm responsible for, right? What am I teaching them by the choices that I'm making? And what am I teaching them by the choices I've refused to make? And what am I teaching them about the thought processes that I'm having about the choices that I make or don't make? And so it really was an eye-opening experience, very painful. I would not wish it on anybody because there were so many levels of healing that needed to take place and just different things that would happen throughout the whole process, getting divorced, asking him to sign the papers, going through that process of getting things notarized, going to court, not having him show up to court, just really doing things by myself when I was responsible for these 3 lives that I didn't create on my own. I felt a lot of times that it just wasn't fair, right? And but you and I both know that life isn't fair, right? And so it was just a matter of, I remember hearing my first lady, because at the time they are marriage and family therapists, who, like, everybody seeks them out in our city. And so I remember that, so they do a lot of research is what I'm trying to say and so they are very knowledgeable in relationships. And so I remember her saying, like, there was a big percentage of women that come out bitter from divorce while the man is just going on living his best life. Okay. And when I heard that, I was like, I am not going to be bitter. I just refuse to be bitter. And this is part of how God works. Like, I remember saying that I wasn't going to be bitter without really understanding what it takes not to be bitter. Because, baby, the amount of discipline, self-control, fruits of the spirit that's required for you to walk in love, for you to not walk in resentment, it's on a whole other level. But I say all that to say, but it is possible, right? It is possible to genuinely want the other person to be blessed. Like, God bless his socks off. You know what I'm saying? Bless him to the point he just overflowing in blessing. Everything he touched, let it prosper, God. Like, let his relationship and his marriage, God, let it last until death do them part. Like, let them have good health, right? And to genuinely mean those things. But let me tell you, it didn't start off like that. And part of the reason I do the work that I do in helping other women bounce back after divorce, or any type of breakup, is because I didn't have that person. And so there were things, there were people in relationship with me that were close to me that were doing things like completely opposite of what I said I wanted. Like, people would, I remember hearing people say, oh, I'm praying for y'all to get back together. That's not my prayer. That's not it, right? I done got the papers and everything. That's not the direction that we're going here. And so, and then just people not knowing what to say, right? It's almost like death. People don't really understand, like, they don't think it through. They don't think through what they're saying and how they're saying it. And you have to also understand, like, people are saying things based on their perspective, and their perspective of your situation is so limited, and it's really based on their situation and what they've gone through in their history. And so I really had to learn how to hear people's opinions and not let it affect my decision, and not get to a place where I was starting to question what I was doing and the decisions that I was making and what I heard God say to me, right? And what he wants for my life in those moments, right? And not really think about what things could be, but really focusing on what are things right here in this moment and how I can enjoy my life right now. And that is something that I thank God for, everything that he has given me, the insight, the wisdom, the teachers, the coaches, the people that he's put across my path to really help guide me to a place of healing. And so much so that I'm able to help other people along on their journey. And so I hope that if you're watching this video and you are a mom and you are going through a divorce and you're not exactly sure what to do and you need some encouragement, I hope that this encourages you, because you're going to make it. You're going to make it. And you have to decide that you're going to make it. And you have to decide how you want to come out on the other side. And if you decide and believe the best about what God says about who you are as his child, you're going to bounce back better than ever. Better than ever, to a place where you look back and be like, man, the old me wouldn't have responded like that. The old me wouldn't have did that. Or people would be looking at you with awe, like, I don't know how you got through what you got through. And so that is what I wanted to share with you guys today. I hope this has been an encouraging word for you, and stay tuned for additional content like this. If this video was encouraging, please share it with somebody who you think would be encouraged from it. Definitely like the video. It helps me on my journey to get monetized on my channel. And it also helps the message get out to be encouraged, right? And definitely subscribe. I will catch you guys in the next video. And as I say, go be great by what? Mastering what's on your plate. We'll talk soon. Later.